Welcome to the leading global specialist in photovoltaic system technology. Welcome to a new, exciting virtual format. Welcome to Niestetal, Germany, where we create what we call energy that changes. This is SMA Solar Technology AG, introducing our brand new virtual format, Let's Talk Energy, Power On. We thank you for joining us and promise to energize you. And here is your host, Kimsey van Rijsach.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers from across the globe. I would like to welcome you to SMA's brand new virtual format, Let's Talk Energy, Power On, where today we will be talking about the world of large scale. Today we will be discussing what the energy world has in store for large PV projects anywhere on the globe, with the challenges to go global, to go sustainable, and of course also to be more efficient. We are coming to you live today from SMA's headquarters in Niestetal, and we are excited to welcome viewers from across the globe. In the next 6+ hours, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have the opportunity to witness expert sessions. We're going to take you on a behind-the-scenes look into a lab. We will have experts from the industry here. We're going to have training sessions, and best of all, you can have all your questions answered from the comfort of your own desk. Let's start with a little bit of an interactive part right now. We're going to do a word cloud. You know what a word cloud is, right? We're going to type in a word into this interactive area, and then we're going to see which cloud forms. Now, of course, you need to know what the question is. And the question for you is, what do you expect from today? Can you answer that with one word? What do you expect from today? That is the question. So whenever you're ready, just type in the word into the interactive area right there. What do you expect from today? Maybe information, I would hope so. Maybe excitement, maybe, I don't know. I'm very interested to see what this word cloud comes up with. So it takes a minute with all the words being entered now. As I said, we have viewers from across the globe, so everybody's typing in their word now. And in just a few moments, this word cloud should be forming. Okay, so your expectations for today are insights, information, performance, innovation. We got you covered. Definitely lots of innovation today. Excitement for sure. Insights, we will definitely have a lot of insights for you. And what else do we have? We have news. Gonna have news for you too, for sure. And it will be very technological. So I think we've got all the bases covered. We really, really have a great day lined up for you. And having said that, I would now like to introduce our Power Talk. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our Power Talk. I would like to introduce our two guests for our Power Talk to you. Please welcome the CEO of SMA Solar Technology AG, Dr. Jürgen Reinert. Jürgen, great you're here.
Thank you. Nice to meet you again, Kinsey. And then to all our listeners and customers around the world, a very warm welcome to you.
And I would also like to welcome the Executive Vice President, Business Unit Utility, Boris Wolff.
Hi, Kinsey, nice to meet you. And also from my side, welcome to the session today. Looking forward.
So before we begin with the hard-hitting questions for both of you, just the information for you, dear viewers out there. If you have any questions that you would like to ask Jürgen, and a little bit later Boris, now's your time. Please enter it into the interactive area, and the two gentlemen will be answering them just a little bit later. And with that, Jürgen, I shall begin with you. If we sort of look back a little bit at the last year, 2019, as well as the first half of 2020, what were the highlights for SMA?
Yeah, I would think the 2019 was actually a very good year for SMA. We were able to increase our delivered power from 8.5 gigawatt to roughly 11.5 gigawatt, so that's an increase of 35%. Which actually stems to a big deal from the large-scale business, so very good increase. And it corresponds to roughly 7 or 8 big power stations, so it's quite an amount of energy we put new into the net. And especially happy I'm also about the fact that we had order intake of more than 1 gigawatt for storage, and that's also mainly for large-scale applications. So it's for frequency regulation, it's for arbitrage, etc., to really stabilize our nets around the world where a lot of PV has been installed already, or even sometimes fully without PV for just normal arbitrage or grid stabilization. But we were also very successful in the O&M business, so operation and maintenance, where we were able to increase our fleet under our maintenance to nearly 5 gigawatt by adding another 1 gigawatt. And that was also in America, actually, so very good success in America, especially in large scale. But last but not least, I would definitely like to mention our focus on coming closer to the customer, being a better partner to our customers, and being able to really deliver software products that add onto all these systems we have in the field of medium voltage batteries, inverters. And we will be hearing quite a lot about that later on today also. So that would be a part that I think we have made biggest changes on actually during the year. If we look at the distribution around the world, then we do see that we could keep our number 3 position. The interesting part is that actually the big 6 players of the world when it comes to gigawatts, so delivered power, actually grew from roughly 60% to 73%. Meaning there is a consolidation happening in the market still, and we're very happy that we could grow with it. So we actually grew quicker than the market due to the fact that the market grew by 10% roughly, and thereby keeping that position. And this graph you see here is on gigawatts. So if we would look at it at currency, then the players would be much closer to each other because then we would not have this big spread. Coming back to what you asked regarding the first part of this year, it started actually very, very good. So we were able to go to over 4 gigawatt in the first quarter, which would mean if we just continue like that, 16, 17 gigawatt across the year. And that was more than a doubling towards the first quarter of last year. But of course, as you can imagine, then Corona came into the picture roughly in the beginning of quarter 2. We saw order intake declining, projects being shifted. Luckily, actually not postponed or stopped at all, but shifted. And we did see that in all segments of us, residential, commercial, utility, we did see this shift. So that the quarter 2 will definitely be a little bit softer. The good thing is that we do see it come back now. We do see order intake increasing again on all segments actually, and that's very, very good, of course.
Of course, that's a fantastic outlook. Quick reminder to our viewers out there: if you have any questions that you would like to ask Jürgen, Dr. Jürgen Reinert, the CEO of SMA, now is your time. And with that, Jürgen, I'll go to my next question about market trends and drivers. What's the market looking at the moment?
Yeah, if we look at the total market, the world market, then it's so that we were 2018, not on this picture here, roughly at 100 gigawatt new installed inverter power across all segments across the world. But then it's only PV inverter power. And this number would grow roughly to about 140 gigawatt in 2022, so roughly 10 gigawatt per annum up year on year. And this would mean that we in 2020, so this year would be roughly at 120, that's our estimation. But due to Corona, we probably expect it to go down to 100, so to the level of 2018. Meaning we do have a 18% decline towards what we thought this year would have. And we do have a 10% decline towards last year, towards 2019. So there's definitely an impact upon that from Corona, but also other impacts like Chinese market is very slow in the first part of this year. Probably picking up in the second part of the year, but if you look at the chart, then you will see China is a little bit lower than anticipated also. And that has not too much to do with Corona, actually. So, but then we do see a continued good growth into 2021 and 22, which roughly corresponds to also 18% from now to 22. So good view ahead of us.
The numbers are looking very good.
And if I look at the next 10 years, then you will see that we do see a growth towards roughly 300 gigawatt of newly installed PV power per year in 2030, which would mean roughly a uptake of 12% per year, every year. And this is, of course, driven by many factors. Most of all, PV has become so cheap, PV energy, that it's the best form of electrical energy to employ, actually, if you have new demands in the country. But second of all, comes in, of course, that there is other effects like green hydrogen, where we need green energy to supply the energy-intensive hydrogen process, power-to-gas process. But also electric vehicles are helping a lot, really, to push photovoltaics due to the fact that normally if homeowners buy an electric vehicle, they become very soon very interested to also put a photovoltaic system on their roof. And the same is true for commercial buildings. So if I look at the trends in total, then we do have a picture of the 3 Ds. It's decarbonization, it's digitalization, and it's decentralization. So, of course, PV industry is a decentral industry. So most of the time, consumers become also producers and thereby prosumers. And we do have the fact that the energy generation is spread much more on the different roofs, of course, in big fields and utility scale applications, etc. And this leads, of course, to the decentralization, as well as, of course, the decarbonization, as I will come back to in the next slide. But also, even in the big power plants, we have a lot of digitalization coming in. I think the people will hear a lot about this in the coming hours. And as I said earlier, with the integration of storage, there's a rising demand for stable grids. So with the higher penetration of PV, it naturally comes to more integration of batteries. And then we stabilize the grid to have the power available in the evening hours on the one hand, but on the other hand also to really stabilize the grid. And this is all done in the utility scale area. And we are everywhere we are active, and these trends are really helping us.
One very important factor is, of course, also sustainability. So important that we're going to have a session about that later on today. Yeah. What does sustainability mean for SMA?
Sustainability is extremely important for us because I would like to compare it to the car industry. If you have an electric vehicle and you fuel it from brown coal or from other means of old energy, then you will actually not have a sustainable car, and it's not a clean car at all, actually. It's just not producing the exhaust fumes where you use it. But the same is true for the PV industry. If you have an inverter that only lasts for 5 years, and even the quality might be good, but if the lifetime is not good, so quality and lifetime is not the same, then of course it will just have recuperated its primary energy resources from the world. And it does not really help us a lot if it's short lifetime on inverters or any other equipment, transformers, switchgear, etc. So it really needs to be designed for at least 20 years. It needs to be so that you can just exchange certain parts. But it's not ending there. You would really need to make sure you're recycling all the electronics and the metal and aluminium, etc. And we do a lot of that. So if you look at the facts, here we have in the last year roughly reduced the environmental impact by 10.5 billion euros by using our inverters, only our inverters in 1 year. And this corresponds to roughly 60 million tons of CO2 saved around the world in 1 year. But we go much beyond that. So we are measuring, for example, our power we need to produce 1 kilowatt of inverter power. So the electrical power we use in the factory to produce 1 kilowatt of inverter power to be shipped then to you, our customers. And over the last 4 years, we could go down with the power we use for each kilowatt by 63%. So really making sure we are increasing the size of the inverters. We are making sure that we implement methods in our manufacturing that is not so energy intensive, etc. But we also make sure we, of course, use our own green power. So on our roofs here in the factory in Germany, we can supply roughly 38% of the energy we use from our own PV system. And the remaining 62% is also from green energy in the surrounding here of Kassel. So this is some things we definitely work with and want to make SMA more and more sustainable, because PV industry is not sustainable by itself. And you will see, if you look at the CSR reports of our company and different companies, you will see a big difference. Some actually only have shareholder value and only the result in mind, which is fine, which also belongs into corporate social responsibility and sustainability. But we do want to have a good combination of sustainability as well as shareholder value.
Absolutely. So if you are interested in sustainability, I highly recommend you watch our session on sustainability with the sustainability manager here at SMA later on today. It's a great session, has a lot of insights, and we'll touch on what you just mentioned. And with that, Jürgen, if you're ready, let's have a look at the Q&A. Let's see what questions came in for you.
Happy.
Let's have a look at the screen. Don't actually have that much time for you. I'm looking at our countdown, which is at 1 minute now at this point, so you're going to have to answer with yes or no. Okay, so what are the testing and quality developments?
I can't answer with yes or no. I must say, just want to highlight that again. Quality and lifetime are two different issues. So in quality, we make a lot of effort with our type testing of the inverters in big labs. Right now, we are building a new lab of 6 million euro for electromagnetic compatibility. So all these things are going into the design, but especially we design with design reserves, which actually cost a little bit of money, to make sure that due to the degradation of the components inside each inverter, we do have a longer lifetime. And that is really something that goes into the OPEX of the entire plant. So that's very important. Quality, of course, just as well important.
And maybe 3 points. What are SMA's long-term storage goals?
Storage will just increase and increase. I mean, in each segment, be it residential, commercial, or large scale, we will see attach rates of over 50% in most of the countries very soon. So in the next years, it will be so that most of the PV plants will have co-located storage, and we will probably see around the world everywhere that we are thinking storage and inverter for PV production at the same time, and maybe even in one design in one unit, and that's actually what we are designing right now for the years to come.
A fantastic outlook. So there's a couple more questions. We don't have time to get to them now, but they will be answered later on throughout the day via email. Sorry, and with that, dear Boris, I get to you. So Jürgen mentioned the 3Ds a little bit earlier. I want to touch on one of them, the digitalization of energy. What does that mean for your customers, and how is SMA positioned here?
Okay, so I explain it a bit. We have several challenges in the energy world, in particular on the electrical energy transmission and distribution and generation. So we are moving from a quite centralized scheme where we have a few large electricity generation units, power plants, and the size of gigawatts or even up to multiple gigawatt size, to a world where we have decentralized generation, where at one point there could be a generation unit which could be a consumer 1 minute later. So we have a instantaneous change of the energy flow. We come from a unidirectional energy flow in the electric grids to a multidirectional energy flow. And digitalization is basically the tool to cope with these challenges arising from those technical aspects, from the change of the infrastructure of the electrical energy generation. And but it's not just digitalization, right? So we need to we offer a comprehensive portfolio to provide, first of all, the hardware, and the hardware needs to be designed to, as Jürgen said, to provide sufficient design reserves, not just to perform now, but also in 10 or 20 years. So that's one aspect that also supports sustainability. Everybody thinks we understand the challenges now, but what are the challenges in 10 years, right? And our hardware is supporting changes in the energy network, in business models. We just learned that storage will play a more and more important role, and we have seen a huge increase in the battery installations, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, and this will continue. So we think that future PV plants without storage will just have a very little share in the overall installations. And we will support storage applications. We will support, by means of storage, applications that support the grid stability, that support challenges that will come up in the future. We also need to support that the asset which is installed will earn money over its lifetime, and that might change. For example, we could have with one of our inverters we launched last year, a PV inverter. And in 3 years' time, it might be very attractive to the declining battery prices to add storage to the plant. And our inverter is prepared for that. So with just adding a battery and a modification of the controller, we suddenly have a plant which is a PV storage co-located DC-coupled plant. And that's possible with SMA technology. And those are the changes we would like to support in the future as well. And digitalization is the tool to support that, right? So we, with software updates, with functional updates, remote support in a world with storage installed in the plants. We are not talking about a plant performing at the time when the sun is shining, right? Suddenly we have, from 12 hours, suddenly we have 24 hours performance time of the plant. And this can be very good achieved by digitalization and remote service. I will talk about that later.
Is there anywhere in the world we can actually see this already?
I think the best example is, and the most challenging currently, is Australia. In Australia, we have the situation of a quite weak grid infrastructure, especially the more you come to the center of the country, they have weaker grids. It's quite well developed at the edge where the big cities are, but not in the center. But these are actually the places where, especially in the last years, a lot of solar PV plants have been installed. And this is causing more and more challenges due to the reasons that I just mentioned, right? So it's a lot of generation during daytime, and Australia, except the last summer in Australia, is not lacking of sunshine, but it's and that's of course causing challenges in the grid. So we have a highly overloaded grid during daytime, and actually nothing during the night. So a lot of fluctuation in the grid. And we have also seen the phenomena recently that there have been plants properly planned for itself. But what has not been taken into consideration in an appropriate way is that there are several plants besides each other, and how do they interfere, right? How do they interact? And that caused, for example, problems which led to the instruction of the grid operator to curtail, so to power limit the PV installations. This is, of course, bad news for the operator who have invested money to earn money with power purchase agreements, and suddenly the grid operator comes, sorry, you can just go with 50% of the power. So and this was of course not a long-term solution. So we have developed a software solution with our experts and have modified the firmware and the settings of our inverters installed in that part of the network to enable the power plants getting back to full power. And these engineering services that we offered there, this is something where we see Australia as a blueprint for other countries in the future. So we think Australia is a perfect example to learn, to be prepared for the future. We are well established in the Australian market. We also support that with battery and storage solutions in the future in order to support the grid stability even more. And we have derived products called engineering services from the challenges in Australia and have deployed that worldwide. And this is now an integral part of our portfolio to make sure it's one thing to build just the hardware and to build a plant, but to have that plant operating stable on the grid while the environment is changing, right? So it's dynamic. It's not stable. It's not a stable condition. This is the challenge, and we are there to support the investor, to support the developer of projects, and to support the operator during the entire lifetime of the asset.
In order to offer these seamlessly integrated solutions, you, I would assume, need a huge portfolio.
Absolutely, and that's what we
Conveniently, that's what you have.
Yeah, so we have everything for the large scale segment, starting from large string inverters, and I think you will hear later something about the epic battle between string or central, the question of the last years. And I think we will have very interesting insights and information on that. So we have large string inverters. We have, of course, central inverters. We have integrated medium voltage systems. We have battery storage systems. Last year we have introduced an option to the PV inverter. I mentioned it before already, where the PV inverter could be prepared for future battery extension, a DC-coupled battery. We have DC-DC converters to connect the battery later on. We have a full service wrap around those hardware products, starting from standard service commissioning to sophisticated O&M for entire plants. So I think we have a very comprehensive portfolio, but everything starts with preparation. And this is the engineering services, which already start before we even think about shipping a product or doing a commissioning. And that could be 2 years before the delivery actually needs to take place.
In addition to components that you mentioned earlier, are there other solutions that SMA offers to its customers?
Yes, we just spoke about sustainability, and we have 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, established an own small department just for repowering. So if any operator in the world, an IPP, has a plant which is not performing according to what it should perform, then we are there to support. And it's always a tailor-made solution, because you need to really understand what's the setup of the plant, what units are installed. We would usually anticipate it's not SMA inverters installed, because then it would perform according to plan, or we would have solved that problem already. But we have for many also competitor product solutions where we can support the customer to bring the plant back to its original performance, sometimes even more than that. So that's one very specific and tailor-made solution. Engineering services, I think I mentioned already. One very interesting thing is, and that underlines the digitalization aspect, is the virtual support. So especially, I again take Australia as an example. They are very remote areas. So traveling to site takes a day or sometimes longer. And so, if we support customer empowerment, that a technician which is close to site can go on site and just put the iPad in front of the inverter, and by remote support from SMA can identify where the problem is, then we can save a couple of days until the spare part arrives on site, or sometimes do a quick fix instantaneously. So that's something we will also hear later about. And those are the things we are doing. And I think very important is, and we just want to highlight it here once again, is that services which we might anticipate now, but could be necessary in a couple of years, we don't even understand now. That's something where we are continuously working on improving our service offering, providing new services and new features to support the investment. And this is also sustainability of the investment. It's not just for environmental reasons, but also for sustainability of investment. And this is very important. And that might answer one question I've seen from Jürgen, the last one. Why should I pay more for SMA? Because we are there. And we are not just paying, providing and shipping units for the lowest possible price. This is not what we want. We want to provide quality products. And according to the feedback we get, I think we manage pretty well. And we do support the investment over the entire lifetime. So we think long term. We are there to stay, and not just making a quick deal and then leaving a market or leaving a segment.
Leaving people hang high and dry.
Absolutely. So that's something I would like to highlight as well.
So if I listen to you and if I summarize, the SMA strategy is to offer everything from one hand. Would that be correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and we take full responsibility for the entire scope. This is also important because sometimes we have a lot of players, and you have the division of work split it between several parties, and then the blame game starts. Who did something wrong if something doesn't work? And we are happy and willing to take that responsibility in order to minimize the losses or risks in projects for everyone.
So let's get back to today. There's going to be a lot of great sessions happening. Can you highlight some of them, please?
Sure. Something I would like to highlight, and this is very important, is the Lighthouse project, a project we did in Boris. And this is a proof of how a future micronets could work, how we could support grid stability. In Boris, we disconnected a town completely from the public network, and then it continued operation just by its own renewable generation as an island grid.
And nobody knew.
Nobody realized, and this is exactly how it should be, right? And I'm very proud of that, and I think we really proved here how that could work. So keywords in that respect is, of course, storage integration, grid forming applications, grid forming inverters, black start capability, and of course, sophisticated hybrid control.
And you brought us a little film, right?
Yes, right. We can have a look at it.
Let's have a look right now.
The name Borisholm means at the shore of the island. With a unique project, the municipal is living up to its name and is quite literally heading towards new shores. The public utility company Versorgungsbetriebe Borisholm, VBB, and TH Köln, University of Applied Sciences in Germany, simulated a large-scale power outage. They disconnected Borisholm from the European utility grid for 1 hour via the synchronous tie switch. Best of all, the 8,000 residents of Borisholm did not even notice it. All households, businesses, and institutions were still supplied with electricity without any interruptions.
And that was a short teaser of the video of this fantastic pilot project of Boris Home, which we will be talking about later on in the session. But you did bring us another video, Boris, right?
Exactly. It's a video to shortly introduce the virtual support app. I mentioned it twice already. Customer empowerment, self-solve in the field, quick reaction times. Let's have a look at it.
Repairs or maintenance work can often lead to costly downtimes. The waiting time for a service technician is usually much longer than the actual troubleshooting time. It is much more efficient to carry out repairs immediately without the need of an additional service technician from the manufacturer. Customers of SMA Solar Technology are already benefiting from this digital support for repairs with the virtual support app after a service training. Customers first download the app from your device's app store. To start the application, the technician scans the marker on the inverter with a smartphone or tablet. The Visual Support app visualizes information about the components, their positions, and combines the associated documentation, such as circuit diagrams or service information, in one digital platform. Industrial-grade augmented reality technology is provided by Oculovis. If a component is defective, the technician carries out the repair independently using video or step-by-step instructions. A functional test completes the work. If further technical support is required, technicians and SMA experts connect with AR-powered video calls using a smartphone, tablet, or smart glasses. Augmented reality overlays enable the SMA expert to offer precise instructions to the technician on site. Screenshots or video recordings document valuable knowledge and can be transferred to other applications. SMA successfully deploys the virtual and remote support app and inspires its customers worldwide with a sustainable, digital, and customer-oriented service. These innovative solutions save valuable time and costs of on-site operations, minimize downtimes, and thus increase the profitability of PV systems.
That is a great session that's going to be happening later on today. And just a quick bit of information, the Boris Home video, which we only saw a little teaser of now, of course, we're going to see a full length later on today in one of the sessions. And with that, gentlemen, I would like to get to the Q&A. And of course, Boris, it would be your time now for the Q&As, but I still have one question that I would like to ask Jürgen that came up before, and it's, of course, a very important question. One of our viewers asked, why is it that would I have to pay more for SMA products?
Yeah. I can assure you it's not lying in our fixed cost structure, for example. We are very lean in the company. It is actually coming back to the design of the inverter. So as I said, quality and lifetime, two different things. And if we look at lifetime in our design, we really put in design reserves. It's with all exothermic processes, it's so that you roughly lose half of your lifetime of a component by each 10 degrees in elevation and temperature, ambient temperature of that component. So for example, if you will look into our inverters and into those of our competition, you will see maybe the same make of components. But you will, if you look at, for example, the DC capacitance inside the inverter, or the IGBTs, or anything else, you will see that we have a little bit higher reserves. We have more capacitance. We have a little bit bigger IGBTs in there, etc. This is adding design reserves, as we call it, which will be diminished over the lifetime due to the degradation of the components. And this actually costs money. So we actually put in the money so that you have a longer lifetime. Apart from that, as Boris already mentioned, of course we are there with a service fleet to always be there. Even if a country goes down, which we have seen in several cases, we will stay in that country and not just leave. So these are the things that really we are giving you as a payment for maybe an extra cost at the beginning.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. So you have Boris, you have 14 seconds to go through the next 3 questions, which is going to make it very difficult for you. So you, obviously being the expert, we have 3 questions up on our screen now. If you could pick one of these 3 questions, which one would you like to address?
The second one,
Okay.
which is very easy and fast to do. The storage and PV inverter, we have something like that in place already. As I mentioned, we have introduced an inverter which could operate as a PV inverter and convert it into a storage inverter by just adding external devices like a DC-DC converter and of course the battery, but the inverter itself is already storage ready. And that's available, happy to serve it. And yeah, I think the other aspects will be covered during the day.
Okay, the other aspects will be covered during the day, but you're also going to be answering them, so the answers will be sent out via email. And with that, gentlemen, I thank you very much. I have one final question to you. You have the opportunity now to do one final statement. It can only be one sentence, however. Yeah, Jürgen, I'll start with you. One final key message.
Yeah, please rely on SMA. We'll be there to support you in all your endeavors, and we'll be there for your projects, so please count on us.
Boris?
So happy to reduce the complexity in your projects and to take risks and to take full responsibility for the part that we can cover. So happy to do so, and I think we have proven that we are able to do that, and we are here.
Great. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for answering all the questions.